Unit 4, Property Description. Learning Objectives. When you have completed this unit, you will be able to accomplish the following. Explain the importance of an accurate legal description and list those documents requiring legal descriptions. Discuss the legally acceptable methods of property description, give examples, and identify the characteristics of each. Describe the importance of a survey. Calculate area using various land measurements. Key terms: baseline, CUL, government survey system, legal description, metes and bounds description, monument, plat map, point of beginning, principal meridians, range, reference to a recorded plat, section, survey, tier, topographic survey, township, learning objective. Explain the importance of an accurate legal description and list those documents requiring legal descriptions. Describing land. One of the essential elements of a valid deed is an accurate legal description of the land being conveyed. The real estate involved must be identifiable from the wording of the deed and with reference to only the documents named in the deed. The courts have usually held that a description of land is legally sufficient if a competent surveyor can locate the real estate in question. Legal descriptions describe the land but not the improvements that are appurtenant and automatically run with the land. This means all items attached to the land will convey in the deed with the legal description unless specifically excluded by contract, such as fixtures. A legal description is an exact way of describing real estate in a contract, deed, mortgage, or another document that will be accepted by a court of law. While street addresses are not sufficient legal descriptions, the legal description in a deed or mortgage may be followed by the words commonly known as in the street address. The street address standing alone is referred to as an informal description or reference. A typical parcel of land has been conveyed and transferred many times in the past. The description of the land in a deed, a mortgage, or another instrument should be the same as that used in the previous instrument of conveyance. Discrepancies, errors, and legal problems can be avoided or reduced if this practice is followed in drawing up subsequent conveyances. In practice, one of the most frequent causes of lawsuits against brokers is inaccurate monuments and lot lines. Buyers need to be confident that the property they are purchasing is in fact what they believe they are buying. Relying on old surveys is not a good idea. The property should be resurveyed by a competent land surveyor, whether or not the lender requires it. Brokers should be very careful when stating the location of boundary lines. Brokers should encourage prospective buyers to hire a registered land surveyor if they plan to install fences or add to the buildings on their property. Recent flooding in North Carolina points out the need to be sure that buyers are informed about whether their property is in a floodplain that can also be determined by an appropriate survey. Learning objective. Discuss the legally acceptable methods of property description, give examples, and identify the characteristics of each. Methods of describing real estate. There are 3 basic methods of legally describing real estate used in the United States: metes and bounds, the rectangular survey, and reference to recorded plat. North Carolina also uses reference to a publicly recorded document that contains a legal description. Metes and bounds. A metes and bounds description is the earliest form of legal description used in the United States, and is still the primary method of describing property in the original 13 colonies, and is considered the best to use for real estate contract and deeds in North Carolina. It makes use of the boundaries and measurements of the land in question. This description shows the boundaries of the parcel and where they meet. Such a description starts at a definitely designated place called the point of beginning, and proceeds around the boundaries of the tract by reference to linear measurements in compass directions, referred to as calls. Each call gives the distance and direction. Each call begins with either north or south, then the number of degrees east or west, using a surveyor's compass. A metes and bounds description always ends at the POB so that the tract being described has closure. In a metes and bounds description, the actual distance between monuments takes precedence over any linear measurement set forth in the description if the 2 measurements differ. Monuments are fixed objects used to establish real estate boundaries. Natural objects such as stones, large trees, lakes, and streams, as well as streets, highways, and markers placed by surveyors, are commonly used as monuments. Measurements often include the words more or less. The location of the monuments is more important than the distance stated in the wording. Problems are created in some instances when a monument has shifted or disappeared over the years. An example of a metes and bounds description of a parcel of land follows. A tract of land located in, described as follows, beginning at the intersection of the east line of Jones Road and the south line of Skull Drive. Thence north 9 Tydig east along the south line of Skull Drive 200 feet. Thence south 15 Dig east 216.5 feet, more or less, to the center thread of Red Skull Creek. Thence north 4 Dig west along the center line of said creek to its intersection with the east line of Jones Road. Thence north 105 feet, more or less, along the east line of Jones Road to the place of beginning. Metes and bounds tract. Here is a sample warranty deed showing the same metes and bounds description. When used to describe property within a town or city, a metes and bounds description may begin as follows. Beginning at a point on the southerly side of Kent Street, 100 feet easterly from the corner formed by the intersection of the southerly side of Kent Street and the easterly side of Broadway, thence. In this description, the POB is given by reference to the intersection. The description must close by returning to the POB. Metes and bounds descriptions may be very complex and should be handled with extreme care. When they include compass directions of the various lines and concave or convex curved lines, they can be difficult to understand. In such cases, the advice and counsel of a professional surveyor should be sought. See FEMA's website for an example. Watch the video to learn more about the metes and bounds method. Rectangular survey system. The rectangular survey system, sometimes called the government survey system, was established by Congress in 1785 to standardize the description of land acquired by the newly formed federal government. This form of land description is not used in North Carolina or the other original British colonies. By dividing the land into rectangles, the survey provided land descriptions by describing the rectangle in which the land was located. The system is based on two sets of intersecting lines, principal meridians and baselines. The principal meridians run north and south, and the baselines run east and west. Both are located by reference to degrees of longitude and latitude. Each principal meridian has a name or number and is crossed by a baseline. Each principal meridian and its corresponding baseline are used to survey a definite area of land, indicated on the map by boundary lines. There are 37 principal meridians in the United States. Township lines. Each principal meridian describes only specific areas of land by boundaries. No parcel of land is described by reference to more than one principal meridian. The meridian used may not necessarily be the nearest one. Ranges. The land on either side of a principal meridian is divided into 6-mile wide strips by lines that run north and south, parallel to the meridian. These north-south strips of land are called ranges. They are designated by consecutive numbers east or west of the principal meridian. For example, Range 3 East would be a strip of land between 12 and 18 miles east of its principal meridian. Range lines. Township tiers. Lines running east and west, parallel to the baseline and 6 miles apart, are referred to as township lines. They form strips of land called township tiers. These township tiers are designated by consecutive numbers north or south of the baseline. For instance, the strip of land between 6 and 12 miles north of a baseline is Township 2 North. Township squares. When the horizontal township lines and the vertical range lines intersect, they form squares. These township squares are the basic units of the rectangular survey system. Townships are 6 miles square and contain 36 square miles. Townships in the rectangular survey system. Each township is given a legal description. The township's description includes the following: designation of the township tier in which the township is located, designation of the range strip, name or number of the principal meridian for that area. Example: in townships in the rectangular survey system, the shaded township is described as Township 3 North, Range 4 east of the principal meridian. This township is the third strip or tier north of the baseline, and it designates the township number and direction. The township is also located in the fourth range strip east of the principal meridian. Finally, reference is made to the principal meridian because the land being described is within the boundary of land surveyed from that meridian. This description is abbreviated as T3N, R4E 4th principal meridian. Sections. Township squares are subdivided into sections and subsections called halves and quarters, which can be further divided. Each township contains 36 sections. Each section is 1 square mile or 640 acres, with 43,560 square feet in each acre. Sections are numbered 1 through 36, as shown in sections in a township. Section 1 is always in the northeast, or upper right-hand, corner. The numbering proceeds right to left to the upper left-hand corner. From there, the numbers drop down to the next tier and continue from left to right, then back from right to left. By law, each section 16 was set aside for school purposes, and the sale or rental proceeds from this land were originally available for township school use. The schoolhouse was usually located in this section, so it would be centrally located for all the students in the township. As a result, Section 16 is commonly referred to as a school section. Sections in a township. Sections are divided into halves and quarters. In turn, each of those parts is further divided into halves and quarters. The southeast quarter of a section, which is a 160-acre tract, is abbreviated SE a quarter. The SE a quarter of SE a quarter of SE a quarter of Section 1 would be a 10-acre square in the lower right-hand corner of Section 1. A section. The rectangular survey system sometimes uses a shorthand method in its descriptions. For instance, a comma may be used in place of the word of SE a quarter, SE a quarter, SE a quarter, Section 1. It is possible to combine portions of a section, such as NE a quarter of SW a quarter and N half of NW a quarter of SE a quarter of Section 1, which could also be written NE a quarter, SW a quarter, N half, NW a quarter, SE a quarter of Section 1. A semicolon means and. Because of the semicolon in this description, the area is 60 acres. Reading a rectangular survey description. To determine the location and size of a property described in the rectangular or government survey style, start at the end and work backward to the beginning, reading from right to left. For example, consider the following description. The S half of the NW a quarter of the SE a quarter of Section 11, Township 8 North, Range 6 west of the 4th Principal Meridian. To locate this tract of land from the citation alone, first search for the 4th Principal Meridian on a map of the United States and note its baseline. Then, on a regional map, find the township in which the property is located by counting 6 range strips west of the 4th Principal Meridian, and 8 townships north of its corresponding baseline. After locating Section 11, divide the section into quarters. Then divide the SE a quarter into quarters, and then the NW a quarter of that into halves. The S half of that NW a quarter contains the property in question. Legal descriptions should always include the name of the county and state in which the land is located because meridians often relate to more than one state, and occasionally relate to 2 baselines. For example, the description the southwest quarter of Section 10, Township 4 North, Range 1 west of the 4th Principal Meridian could refer to land in either Illinois or Wisconsin. Reference to a recorded plat. The third legal description commonly used is by reference to a recorded plat. It is a system that uses lot and block numbers, referred to as a plat or subdivision, placed in the registry of deeds of the county where the land is located. This is the most common and worry-free method of describing property in urban areas. The first step in subdividing land is the preparation of a plat map by a licensed surveyor or engineer, as illustrated in Subdivision Plat Map. Subdivision Plat Map. On this plat map, the land is divided into numbered or lettered blocks and lots, and streets or access roads for public use are indicated. Lot sizes and street details must be indicated completely and must comply with all local ordinances and requirements. When properly signed and approved, the subdivision plat must be recorded in the public records in the county where the land is located to be a legally acceptable property description. In describing a lot from a recorded subdivision plat, the lot and block number, name or number of the subdivision plat, and name of the county and state are used. For example, being all of lot number 41 is shown and designated on a certain map prepared by John Doe, C. Dated May 16, 1980, entitled Plan of Bradford Extension, which said map is duly recorded in Map Book 7 at page 32, in the office of the Register of Deeds of Craven County, to which map reference is hereby made for a further and better description. Less and except any existing road right-of-ways of record. Reference to a recorded deed. The third method of land description used in North Carolina is by reference to a publicly recorded document, usually an earlier deed to the identical property. This deed typically contains a legal description of the property that is to be conveyed. For example, if a deed dated September 17, 1993, included the previous description by reference to a recorded plat, a deed prepared 4 years later that conveyed the same property could incorporate that same description by referring to the previous deed. Deeds do not make reference to buildings on the property. In practice, when filling in the blanks of a sales contract, a broker should exercise great care to ensure that a proper and accurate legal description is used. Never list the legal description as N for not applicable, because legal descriptions of newly subdivided land, once recorded, affect title to real estate. They should only be prepared by a professional land surveyor or a lawyer. Real estate brokers who attempt to draft legal descriptions create potential risks for themselves and their clients and customers. Furthermore, when entered on a document of conveyance such as a deed, legal descriptions should be copied with care. For example, an incorrectly worded legal description in a sales contract may obligate the seller to convey, or the buyer to purchase more or less land than either one intended. Title problems can also arise for the buyer who seeks to convey the property at a future date. Informal references. The use of informal references in describing property can often lead to legal problems, but informal references may be sufficient if they enable a surveyor to precisely locate the parcel of real estate. A street address is a good example of an informal reference, and is often used in a listing contract and short-term rental agreements. Any contract to convey a real property interest and any type of deed should always contain a legally acceptable description. Learning objective. Describe the importance of a survey. Preparation and use of a survey. Legal descriptions should not be changed, altered, or combined without adequate information from a competent authority such as a surveyor or title lawyer. Legal descriptions should always include the name of the county and state in which the land is located. A professional land surveyor is trained and licensed to locate a given parcel of land and to determine its legal description. The surveyor does this by preparing a survey which sets forth the legal description of the property and a survey sketch which shows the location and dimensions of the parcel. When a survey also shows the location, size, and shape of buildings located on the lot, it is referred to as a physical survey, a mortgage location survey, or an identification survey. When a survey shows the lay of the land, such as where there are hills and valleys, it is called a topographic survey or topo survey. Surveys are required in many real estate transactions, such as when conveying a portion of a given tract of land, conveying real estate as security for a mortgage loan, showing the location of new construction, locating roads and highways, and determining the legal description of the land on which a particular building is located. When underwriting a real estate loan, the lender might require an up-to-date survey of the collateral property to make sure that there are no encroachments on the property, because an encroachment could render the title to the property unmarketable. Encroachments could cross boundary lines, easements, or setbacks. Title insurance routinely excludes coverage of title defects that would have been discovered by a survey if a survey was not conducted. Here is an example of a survey. Learning objective. Calculate area using various land measurements. Math concepts. Area. Real estate professionals are often called upon to determine the size or area of a parcel or of a structure. They should be able to determine square footage, verify the area of lots, parcels of land, determine the volume of buildings, convert acreage to square footage and vice versa, calculate square yards, determine the cost or price per square foot, acre, square yard, front foot, and calculate the acreage of a portion of a section of land. Here are the formulas necessary to perform these calculations. To calculate the square footage of various shapes. Square, length times width equals square footage. Rectangle, length times width equals square footage. Triangle, base times height divided by 2 equals square footage. To calculate square yards. Length times width and divide by 9. To calculate square footage and acreage, it is necessary to know that an acre of land consists of 43,560 square feet. As a rule of thumb, the first number listed in the dimensions of a property is the front footage. These calculations are discussed in more detail in Math FAQs. To calculate the cost of purchasing land, use the same unit in which the cost is given. Costs quoted per square foot must be multiplied by the proper number of square feet. Costs quoted per acre must be multiplied by the proper number of acres, etc. To calculate the cost of a parcel of land of 3 acres at $1.10 per square foot, convert the acreage to square feet before multiplying. 43,560 square feet per acre times 3 acres equals 130,680 square feet. 130,680 square feet times $1.10 per square foot equals $143,748. To calculate the cost of a parcel of land of 17,500 square feet at $60,000 per acre, convert the cost per acre into the cost per square foot before multiplying by the number of square feet in the parcel. $60,000 per acre divided by 43,560 square feet per acre equals $1.38 per square foot. 17,500 square feet times $1.38 per square foot equals $24,150. Key point review. The 3 methods of legal description of land are the following. The metes and bounds method measures distances, starts from a point of beginning, follows compass directions or angles, arrives at the point of ending, which must be the same as the POB, and uses monuments to identify the POB in corners or places where boundary lines change direction. The government rectangular survey system divides land into rectangles, is measured from the intersection of principal meridians and baselines, is referenced by degrees of longitude and latitude, uses township lines, which run east to west parallel to and counted from baselines that are 6 miles apart, in units called townships of 36 square miles each, in rows of townships called tiers, and is arranged so each township is divided into 36 sections of 1 mile square, counted from northeast and running right to left, then left to right, etc., and uses range lines, which run north to south parallel to principal meridian, that are 6 miles apart in rows called ranges. The reference to a recorded plat is approved by the governing body and filed in public records of the county where the land is located. The reference to a recorded deed is identical property referenced in an earlier deed. An informal reference, such as a street address, is not adequate to convey property but is acceptable in a lease. A survey should be obtained to verify lot dimensions and identify easements and encroachments.